Lisa Barnes rubbed her tired eyes and looked at the clock on her screen. 3 in the morning on the deep space station was always the quietest time. She had been working the night shift at the communications center for 2 years now, and nothing exciting ever happened most nights. She just listened to empty space and the occasional message from passing cargo ships. The coffee in her cup had gone cold hours ago, but she drank it anyway. Outside the thick windows of the station, stars filled the darkness. The station called New Frontier floated far from Earth, watching and listening for anything unusual in the deep black of space. Lisa was about to check the news feeds from Earth when her equipment started making noise. A soft beeping sound came from her main console. She sat up straight and looked at the screen. There was a signal coming in, but it was very weak and broken up. She frowned and adjusted the controls. The signal was unlike anything she had seen before. It was not from any human ship or station. The pattern was wrong. The frequency was strange. And there were sounds mixed in that made no sense. Lisa pressed the emergency button on her desk. A red light started flashing, and within minutes, Jake Collins ran into the room. Jake was the station commander, a tall man with gray hair who had been in space for 20 years. "What do we have, Lisa?" Jake asked, looking at her screens. "Hey, I'm getting a signal, sir. It's not human. The pattern is completely different from anything in our databases." Lisa played the signal through the speakers. Strange clicks and whistles filled the room, mixed with what sounded like electronic noise. Jake listened carefully. His face was serious. "How long has this been coming in?" "About 10 minutes. It's very weak, like it's coming from very far away. But sir, there's something else." "The signal is repeating the same pattern over and over again." Jake nodded. "Call Dr. Amy Watson. Wake her up if you have to. We need our language expert here right now." Lisa made the call, and within 20 minutes, Dr. Amy Watson arrived at the communications center. Amy was a small woman with short brown hair who specialized in studying languages and communication patterns. She had joined the station crew because she was interested in the possibility of alien contact. "What you have," Amy said, sitting down at a computer next to Lisa. Lisa played the signal again. Amy listened with her eyes closed, concentrating hard. After hearing it 3 times, she opened her eyes and started typing on her computer. "This is definitely not human," Amy said. "The frequency patterns are too complex. And these sounds, they're not random noise. There's a structure here, like a language." For the next 4 hours, the 3 of them worked on the signal. Amy used her computer programs to break down the sounds and look for patterns. Lisa kept adjusting the equipment to make the signal clearer. Jake coordinated with other stations in the area to see if anyone else was picking up the transmission. As the sun started to rise on their part of the station, Amy suddenly sat up straight. "I think I've got something," she said excitedly. "At this pattern here, it keeps repeating, but with small changes each time. It's like someone is trying to say the same thing over and over, but in different ways." She pointed to her screen, where colorful waves showed the sound patterns. "And here, see these sharp spikes? They come at regular intervals. In human languages, we use similar patterns for urgent or important words." Jake looked at the screen. "Are you saying this might be a distress call?" "I think so. But there's more. Let me play this part again." Amy isolated a section of the signal and played it slowly. "These sounds here, they're getting weaker over time. Like the power source is failing, or like whoever is sending this is getting farther away." Lisa felt a chill run down her back.
"Or
like they're dying." The 3 of them worked for another 6 hours. Amy's computers slowly started to make sense of the alien language. It was incredibly complex, but patterns began to emerge. Some sounds seemed to mean danger. Others appeared to be locations or directions. Finally, Amy called Jake and Lisa over to her main screen. "I think I know what this message says. It's rough, and I'm probably wrong about a lot of it, but here's what I think they're trying to tell us." She cleared her throat and read from her notes. "Help. Danger coming. They destroy everything. They come to your space next. We watched you. You are strong. Please help. This is our location. Hurry." The room was completely silent for a long, Moment Jake was the first to speak. "Are you sure about this?" Amy nodded slowly. "As sure as I can be with only this much data." "But Jake, there's something else. The signal is coming from the direction of the Kepler system, about 40 light years from here. And according to the signal strength and degradation patterns, it was sent recently, maybe only a few weeks ago." Jake walked to the window and looked out at the stars. For his entire career, humans had wondered if they were alone in the universe. Now it seemed like they had their answer, and it was not what anyone had hoped for. "Lisa, send a priority message to Earth Command. Tell them we have possible first contact, and it's not good news. Amy, keep working on that translation. I want to know everything this message says." Jake paused and looked at both women. "Let's hope that whoever sent this message is wrong about the danger coming our way." Outside the station, the stars continued to shine in the darkness, keeping their secrets. But now, for the first time, humans knew they were not alone in the galaxy. Something was coming. Captain Ryan Martinez stood on the bridge of the exploration ship Horizon's Edge and watched the stars shift as they dropped out of faster-than-light travel. After 3 weeks of traveling through space, they had finally reached the location where the alien signal had come from. What they found made everyone on the bridge go completely silent. The Villani system was a graveyard. Huge pieces of metal and debris floated everywhere in the darkness. Ash! What had once been beautiful space stations now looked like broken toys scattered by an angry child. Ash! The planet below, which should have been blue and green like Earth, was covered in brown and gray scars where cities had once stood. "My God," whispered Megan Foster, the ship's tactical officer. She was looking at her scanner readings with wide eyes. "Captain, I'm reading the remains of at least 12 major orbital facilities and the planet. The planet has been bombed from space." Ryan had been in the space service for 15 years, but he had never seen destruction like this. "Carlos, do you see any signs of life down there?" Carlos Rivera, the chief engineer, was working at his station with fast movements. "I'm picking up some very weak power signatures, sir. Looks like there might be survivors in underground shelters. But Captain, most of the planet's surface is gone." Ryan made a decision that would change everything. "Take us in closer. If there are survivors, we need to find them." As the Horizon's Edge moved through the debris field, the crew could see the remains of a civilization that had been peaceful and advanced. The destroyed stations showed no signs of weapons or military defenses. These people had been scientists, artists, and explorers, not warriors. "Captain, I'm getting a transmission," called out Lisa Chen, the communications officer. "It's very weak, but it's coming from the planet's surface." "Put it through," Ryan ordered. The speakers crackled with static, and then a voice came through. It was strange and musical, unlike any human voice, but there was something in it that everyone could understand. It was the sound of hope mixed with deep sadness. "Unknown vessel, this is Villani Sanctuary 7. We did not expect anyone to come. Are you the ones who received our message?" Ryan stepped forward. "This is Captain Ryan Martinez of the human vessel Horizon's Edge. We received your distress signal and came to help. Are you hurt? Do you need medical assistance?" There was a long pause. Then the voice came back, and it sounded amazed. "Humans, you are the humans. We have watched your world from far away. We hoped you would come." 2 hours later, Ryan and a small team took a shuttle down to the planet's surface. What they found there broke their hearts and filled them with anger at the same time. The Villani were tall, thin beings with large eyes and skin that seemed to shimmer like water. They moved gracefully and spoke in voices that sounded like music. But these survivors looked tired and hurt, like people who had seen too much pain. Ambassador Zephyr was their leader, an old Villani who had lived for over 300 years. Through a translation device that Dr. Kevin Murphy had quickly built, Zephyr told them the terrible story of what had happened. "The Krathan Dominion came to our world without warning," Zephyr explained. The ambassador's large eyes were full of sadness. "We tried to talk to them, to ask them what they wanted, but they do not talk. They only take and destroy." Dr. Murphy, who had studied languages his whole life, worked carefully with the translation system. How long ago did this happen? 47 of your days, Zephyr replied. They came with ships so large they blocked out the sun. They demanded that we surrender everything to them. Our technology, our knowledge, our people. When we refused, they began the bombardment. Megan Foster, who had come down with the landing party, asked the question that everyone was thinking. How many other worlds have they done this to? Zephyr looked at each of the humans before answering. 63 worlds in the last 50 years. The Krathen moved from system to system, taking everything useful and destroying the rest. They keep some people as slaves, but most they simply remove. The word hung in the air like a death sentence. We studied your species for many years, Zephyr continued. We watched your world from a distance and saw how you dealt with conflict and danger. Other species in the galaxy have called your world a death world because life there is so harsh and violent. But we realized that this might be exactly what the galaxy needs. Carlos Rivera frowned. What do you mean? Every species the Krathen have conquered came from peaceful worlds. We had no experience with real war, no weapons designed to kill, no strategies for fighting an enemy that wants to destroy everything. But humans, humans are different. Dr. Murphy was working hard to make sure the translation was correct. You're saying you chose to contact us because we're violent, not because you are violent, Zephyr corrected. Because you know how to fight when you must. Because you have what we call survival creativity. When your people are threatened, you find ways to win that other species cannot imagine. Before anyone could respond, alarms started going off on everyone's communication devices. The Horizon's Edge was calling them with an emergency message. Captain Martinez, you need to get back to the ship right now, came the voice of his first officer. We have multiple contacts approaching the system. They're big, sir. Really big. Ryan looked at the Villani survivors, then at his team. How long do we have? 30 minutes? Maybe less. Zephyr stood up slowly. They have come back. The Krathen do not like to leave witnesses. They will destroy your ship and then finish destroying this world. Ryan made a decision that surprised everyone, including himself. Then we're taking you with us. All of you. Captain, the ship can't hold all of us, Zephyr protested. Then we'll make room, Ryan said firmly. No one gets left behind. As the human shuttle raced back toward the Horizon's Edge with 47 Villani survivors crammed inside. Ryan looked out at the approaching ships on his scanner. They were unlike anything in human databases, huge dark vessels that seemed designed to cause fear as much as destruction. This is it, he thought to himself. Stalled first contact with a hostile alien species. But as he looked at the Villani survivors, and then at his own crew preparing for battle, Ryan felt something he had not expected. He felt anger. These Krathen had destroyed a peaceful civilization, were now coming to finish the job. They were about to learn that humans did not like bullies. The news spread across human space like wildfire. Every television, every computer screen, every communication device carried the same impossible message. Humans were not alone in the universe, and something was coming to destroy them. President Nathan Brooks sat in the emergency meeting room deep under the Capitol building. Around the table were the most important military leaders and scientists on Earth. The room was filled with tension and cigarette smoke. Even though smoking had been banned in government buildings for decades, "Show me the footage again," President Brooks said quietly. General Patricia Stone pressed a button, and the main screen showed the recording from the Horizon's Edge. Everyone watched as the massive Krathen ships appeared on the scanner, dark and threatening against the stars. The ships were so large they made human vessels look like insects. "How did Captain Martinez get away?" asked Admiral Marcus Webb, the head of the Space Navy. "Pure luck and good piloting," General Stone replied. "The Krathen ships are fast, but they're built for destroying planets, not chasing small targets." Martinez used the debris field to hide and then jumped to faster than light speed before they could surround him. President Brooks looked at the papers in front of him. 3 days had passed since the Horizon's Edge had returned with the Villani survivors. 3 days of the most intense meetings in human history. "What do we know about their technology?" the president asked. Dr. Helen Torres, the director of the Strategic Defense Initiative, opened her briefing folder. The Villani have been very helpful. Their technology is more advanced than ours, but it's all designed for peaceful purposes. They have better engines, better energy systems, and better computers, but they have no weapons. The Krathen. According to the Villani, the Krathen have weapons that can destroy cities from orbit. Their ships carry thousands of fighters, and they have ground forces that can take over planets in days. But Dr. Torres, there's something else. Helen Torres looked around the room. Villani think the Krathen have never fought anyone who fights back. Every species they've conquered was peaceful. They don't know how to deal with real military resistance. Admiral Webb leaned forward. What are you saying? I'm saying that maybe, just maybe, we have a chance. President Brooks stood up and walked to the window. Outside, he could see the lights of the city. Millions of people going about their normal lives, not knowing that everything was about to change. How long do we have? He asked. General Stone checked her notes. The Villani star charts show the Krathen moving through space in a straight line, destroying everything in their path. At their current speed, they'll reach our outer colonies in 6 months. Earth itself in 8 months. 8 months to prepare for a war against an alien empire that has never lost a battle. President Brooks turned back to face the room. Do we need, for the next hour? The meeting turned into a planning session that would have seemed impossible just a week before. Every military base in human space received new orders. Every shipyard began working around the clock. Every scientist and engineer was assigned to projects that had never been imagined. At the Luna shipyards above Earth's moon, Director Maria Santos was already coordinating the biggest construction project in human history. Thousands of workers were modifying existing ships and building new ones. The peaceful cargo vessels and exploration ships were being turned into warships. We need more weapons, Maria told her assistant as they walked through the construction bay. The Villani energy technology is good, but we need to make it deadly. Across the solar system, Dr. Roy Kim was working in his laboratory with a team of Villani scientists. The aliens were amazed by how quickly humans could take their peaceful technology and turn it into weapons. This plasma conduit system, Dr. Kim explained to Ambassador Zephyr, you use it to power your cities. But if we modify the output controls and add some focusing crystals, it becomes a very powerful energy cannon. Zephyr looked sad but nodded. We understand. You must defend yourselves. But it is strange to us, seeing tools of creation become tools of destruction. War is strange to us too, Dr. Kim replied. We're very good at it when we have to be. The transformation of human space was incredible to watch. On Earth, factories that made cars began making armor plating for spaceships. Companies that built computers started making targeting systems. Even farmers were growing extra food to feed the millions of people now working in the war effort. Commander Alex Parker stood on the bridge of the destroyer Vigilant and watched his fleet prepare for departure. 24 ships, all modified with new weapons and new technology, were heading to the outer colonies to set up the first line of defense. Sir, we're getting reports from the frontier, his communications officer said. The mining station at Kepler 442 has gone silent. Their last transmission showed large ships on their sensors. Alex felt a cold feeling in his stomach. How long ago? 18 hours, sir. Then it's starting. Alex looked at his crew. All young men and women who had volunteered for the most dangerous job in human history, set course for the frontier. It's time to see what we're really fighting. Meanwhile, on a secret military base on Mars, Colonel Diana Wells was training the first human soldiers who would fight aliens in ground combat. The soldiers were learning to use weapons that had never existed before and practicing tactics that had never been tested. Remember, Diana told her troops as they practiced with their new energy rifles, "We don't know how strong the Krathen are, how fast they move, or how they think. But we know one thing they don't know about us." "What's that, Colonel?" asked Sergeant Tony Blake. Diana smiled, but it was not a happy smile. "We know how to die fighting. Sometimes that's enough to win." Back on Earth, President Brooks made a speech that was broadcast to every human settlement in the galaxy. Standing at his desk in the White House, he looked directly into the camera and spoke words that would be remembered forever. "My fellow humans, we face a threat unlike anything in our history. An alien empire that has destroyed dozens of worlds is coming for us. They think we are just another peaceful species that will surrender without a fight." The president paused and looked at his notes. "They are wrong. Humanity has survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and disasters that would have destroyed other species. We have climbed out of caves and reached for the stars. We have turned a dangerous world into our home, and now we will defend that home." He stood up straighter. "The Krathen Dominion thinks they are hunting sheep. They are about to discover they have awakened sleeping wolves. We will show them what happens when you threaten the children of Earth." Across human space, millions of people watched the speech and felt something they had not felt in generations. They felt the ancient human instinct to fight when cornered, to protect their families, and to never surrender. The sleeping giant was waking up, and it was angry. The first real battle between humans and aliens happened at the frontier world of Sanctuary. It was a small farming colony with only 50,000 people, but it became the most important battlefield in human history. Colonel Diana Wells stood in the command bunker and watched the sky turn dark as the Krathen ships arrived. There were 12 massive vessels, each one the size of a city. They moved slowly through space like giant metal predators, blocking out the sun as they positioned themselves above the planet. "All units, this is command." Diana spoke into her radio. "Remember your training. These aliens have never fought humans before. Let's show them what a mistake that was." The Krathen attack began exactly as the Vellani had predicted. Energy beams rained down from orbit, targeting power plants, communication centers, and military bases. The aliens were trying to destroy the planet's ability to resist, just like they had done on 63 other worlds. But humanity had learned from the Vellani's experience. The important facilities on Sanctuary were hidden underground or protected by energy shields built with modified alien technology. When the orbital bombardment ended, most of the human defenses were still working. "Phase 1 complete," reported Major Chris Taylor from his position near the main landing zone. "The aliens are sending down their invasion forces. I count. My God, there must be thousands of them." Diana looked at her tactical display. The Krathen were landing in massive dropships all around the colony's main city. Their strategy was simple and had worked on every other world they had conquered. Land overwhelming numbers of troops, crush any resistance quickly, and move on to the next target. "All units, engage," Diana ordered. What happened next shocked the Krathen more than anything they had experienced in 50 years of conquest. Instead of panicking or surrendering, the humans fought back with tactics and weapons the aliens had never seen before. Captain Tony Blake, commanding a squadron of modified human fighters, led the first air attack against the Krathen dropships. The alien pilots were skilled, but they had learned to fight against other aliens who followed predictable patterns and rules of engagement. "Blue Squadron, break formation and go to free hunt mode," Tony ordered over the radio. "Remember, there are no rules in this fight." The human pilots scattered in all directions, using tactics that seemed random and chaotic to the Krathen. They flew through their own artillery fire, used buildings as cover, and attacked from directions that should have been impossible. 3. Krathen dropships crashed in the first 10 minutes of the battle. Lieutenant 10 Rachel White dove her fighter through the smoke of a burning building and fired her new energy cannons at point-blank range into a Krathone transport. The alien ship exploded in a ball of green fire. "This is White. That's 2 for me. Who's keeping score?" "Stay focused," White Tony replied, but he was smiling. The human pilots were not just winning, they were having fun doing it, on the ground. The battle was even more surprising for the Krathen. Major Chris Taylor's Marines had prepared for this fight by studying every piece of information that Villani could provide about Krathen ground tactics. The aliens were tall, heavily armored creatures that moved in perfect formation. They used energy, weapons that could punch through most materials, and they had always overwhelmed their enemies with superior numbers and firepower, but they had never fought soldiers from a death world. "Contact front," shouted Sergeant Mike Davis as the first Krathon troops appeared around a corner. The aliens were huge, nearly 8 feet tall, covered in black armor that made them look like metal monsters. The Marines opened fire with their new weapons. The energy rifles that Dr. Kim's team had built were based on Villani technology, but they had been modified with human military thinking. They fired faster, hit harder, and never seemed to run out of power. But what really surprised the Krathen was not the weapons, it was the humans using them. When a Marine was hit by alien fire, he did not retreat or call for help, kept fighting until he could not fight anymore. When a position was overrun, the humans did not surrender. They fell back to the next position and kept shooting. The Krathen had conquered species that were smarter than humans, stronger than humans, and more technologically advanced than humans. But they had never fought a species that simply refused to quit. "They are not behaving correctly," reported Krathen Ground Commander Vex to his ship. "They should have surrendered by now. Their casualties are at 30%. "Continue the attack," came the reply from orbit. "All species break eventually." But as the hours passed, it became clear that something was very wrong with the Krathen. Battle plan. The humans were not just fighting back, they were adapting to alien tactics faster than the Krathen could change their strategy. When the aliens tried to use their superior numbers to surround human positions, the humans abandoned those positions and attacked from somewhere else. When the Krathen concentrated their forces in one area, human artillery appeared out of nowhere and destroyed them. The turning point came when Major Taylor led a desperate assault on the main Krathen landing zone. Using captured alien vehicles and weapons, his Marines drove straight into the heart of the enemy formation. "This is crazy, Major," said Lieutenant Karen Brown, as their stolen Krathen transport smashed through an alien checkpoint. "We're outnumbered 50-1. "That's the point," Taylor replied, firing the alien vehicle's weapons at its former owners. "They expect us to be smart and careful. They don't know what to do when we're crazy and brave." The assault succeeded, because the Krathen could not believe what they were seeing. No species in their experience had ever attacked superior numbers with inferior equipment and won through sheer determination. By the end of the day, half the Krathen invasion force was destroyed or retreating. The aliens had taken heavy losses, while the human defenders, though badly hurt, were still fighting. But the real victory was not on the battlefield. It was in space, where Captain Gary Wilson had led a squadron of human ships in a successful attack on one of the Krathen orbital vessels. "Target destroyed," Wilson reported as the alien ship broke apart in a shower of metal and fire. "That's 1 down, 11 to go." The destruction of a Krathen warship sent shockwaves through the alien fleet. In 50 years of conquest, they had never lost a major vessel to a primitive species. But even more shocking was the message that came from the human defenders as the alien fleet prepared to retreat. "This is Colonel Diana Wells to the Krathen fleet." Diana broadcast on all frequencies. "You came here thinking you would find easy prey. You found warriors instead. Go back to your empire and tell them what happened here. Tell them that humanity is ready for war." The Krathen fleet withdrew from Sanctuary, leaving behind their dead and taking with them the first defeat in their history. But more importantly, they carried news that would change everything. The galaxy's newest species was not going to be conquered easily. The humans were something the Krathen had never encountered before. They were dangerous. As Diana Wells stood in the ruins of the colony's main building and watched the alien ships disappear into space, she knew this was only the beginning. The Krathen would be back with more ships and more soldiers, but she also knew something else. Humanity had proven they could fight aliens and win. The sleeping giant was fully awake now, and it was ready for war. 6 months after the battle at Sanctuary, the largest fleet in human history gathered in the Arcturus system. Admiral Frank Peters stood on the bridge of his flagship, Retribution, and looked at the display showing over 300 human warships. Spread across space, it was an incredible sight. Ships that had been built in Earth's shipyards floated next to vessels constructed in the asteroid belt. Converted cargo haulers, armed with energy cannons, flew alongside sleek new destroyers equipped with the best human and Villani technology. Admiral, we're receiving the final reports from our scout ships, reported Captain Beth Miller, Peters' chief of staff. The Krathen main fleet has arrived in the system, of over 2,000 ships. Peters nodded calmly. The numbers were terrifying, but he had expected this. The Krathen War Prime Zolthon had brought almost their entire military to crush humanity once and for all. They could not allow news of their defeat at Sanctuary to spread to other species in the galaxy. Send word to General Hayes on the surface, Peters ordered. Tell her the main event is about to begin. On the planet below, General Victoria Hayes was coordinating the defense of 3 different worlds with over 1 million human soldiers. The Krathen were not just attacking one target this time. They were trying to destroy every major human colony at once. All units, this is Hayes. Victoria spoke into her communication system. The enemy fleet has arrived. Remember, we're not just fighting for ourselves today. We're fighting for every peaceful species in the galaxy that the Krathen have destroyed. The battle began at exactly noon, ship time, when the Krathen fleet moved into attack formation. Their ships were arranged in perfect geometric patterns that had struck fear into countless species across the galaxy. They advanced slowly and steadily, like a metal wall of death moving through space. But Admiral Peters had learned from every battle humanity had ever fought. He had studied the tactics of every great commander from Alexander the Great to the space battles of the last century. Most importantly, he had learned that sometimes the best strategy was to do something so unexpected that the enemy could not respond fast enough. All ships, execute Plan Chaos, Peters ordered. What happened next would be studied in military academies for the next 1,000 years. Instead of meeting the Krathen fleet in traditional battle formation, the human ships scattered in every direction. Some dove toward the planet, others climbed away from the system's star. Many seemed to disappear entirely using new stealth technology developed from Villani science. The Krathen fleet, which had been programmed to fight enemies that followed predictable military doctrine, suddenly found themselves facing an opponent that seemed to have no plan at all. This is madness, reported Krathen War Prime Zolthon to his commanders. They are fighting without any organization. Our computers cannot predict their movements. But the apparent chaos was actually a carefully planned strategy. Each group of human ships had a specific target and mission. They were using the one advantage humanity had always possessed, the ability to think creatively under pressure. Lieutenant Commander Jane Torres led a squadron of fast attack ships toward the Krathon command vessel. Her ships were small and looked almost harmless compared to the massive alien warships. But they carried the most dangerous weapons humanity had ever built. Remember, people, Jane said to her pilots, we only get one shot at this. Make it count. Her squadron dove through the Krathen fleet like arrows shot from a bow. The alien defensive fire was incredibly heavy, but the human pilots flew their ships in patterns that seemed impossible. They spun, rolled, and changed direction so quickly that the Krathen gunners could not track them. Meanwhile, Captain Gary Wilson was leading the most dangerous mission of the battle. His group consisted of 20 cargo ships that had been converted into something the galaxy had never seen before: suicide bombers. This is Wilson to all freight train units. Gary broadcast to his volunteer crews. Everyone knows the mission. Get as close to their biggest ships as possible, then blow everything we've got. The converted cargo ships charged directly at the center of the Krathen fleet. They looked like they were making a desperate, hopeless attack. The Krathen concentrated their fire on the charging ships, destroying most of them before they could reach their targets. But that was exactly what the humans wanted. While the Krathen were focused on stopping the obvious threat, they did not notice the real danger. Hidden inside the cargo ships were small fighter craft that broke away at the last moment and flew directly into the alien fleet's main formation. Scott Adams, the engineer who had designed the hidden fighters, watched from the Retribution as his plan worked perfectly. The Krathen are too organized, he had told Admiral Peters. They expect their enemies to be organized too, so we'll give them chaos they can't understand. The hidden fighters carried special weapons that Engineer Adams had built for mining. Equipment. They were designed to attach to enemy ships and drill through their armor before exploding. Within minutes, dozens of Krathon vessels were crippled or destroyed by weapons they had never imagined. But the real turning point came when Lieutenant Commander Torres' squadron reached the Krathon command ship, the massive vessel called Dominions. Fist was the size of a small moon and carried Warprim Zolthon and his entire command staff. Target locked, Torres reported as her ship dove toward the alien command center, firing everything. The concentrated fire from her squadron hit the Krathen ship's shield generators at exactly the right moment. The alien shields collapsed, and human energy weapons burned through armor that had never been penetrated. Warprime. Zolthon died in the explosion that followed, along with most of the Krathen High Command. For the first time in their history, the Krathen fleet found itself without central leadership in the middle of a major battle. What happened next was something that Krathen had never experienced: panic. Ships that had always fought in perfect coordination began making individual decisions. Some tried to retreat, others attacked randomly. And many simply stopped moving as their crews argued about what to do. The human fleet, which had seemed chaotic and disorganized, suddenly revealed its true nature. Every scattered group of ships came together at exactly the right moment to attack the confused Krathen forces. All units, this is Admiral Peters, came the voice over every human communication channel. The enemy command is destroyed. Press. The attack. Show them what happens when you threaten Earth. The battle lasted for 6 more hours, but the outcome was never in doubt after the destruction of the Krathen command ship. By the end of the day, the mighty Krathen fleet was broken and retreating in all directions. Admiral Peters stood on his bridge and watched the last enemy ships disappear into faster-than-light travel. Around him, his crew was cheering and celebrating, but he felt only a quiet satisfaction. "Signal Earth Command," he told his communications officer. "Tell them the Krathen threat has been eliminated." 3 days later, Ambassador Zephyr stood in the new meeting hall on Earth and looked at the representatives from dozens of species that had been hiding from the Krathen for decades. They had come to meet the humans who had done the impossible. "Galaxy is free," Zephyr announced to the assembled aliens. "The Krathen Dominion is scattered and broken. For the first time in 50 years, peaceful species can develop without fear." The Vellani ambassador looked at the human representatives and felt something that his species had not felt since before the Krathen came: hope for the future. The humans have shown us that sometimes, when evil threatens everything good in the universe, someone must stand up and fight. Today, we begin building a new alliance of free worlds, protected by those who understand that peace must sometimes be defended with war. President Brooks stood up and addressed the gathering. "We did not ask to be warriors, did not want this war. But when bullies threatened innocent people, we remembered who we are. We are the children of Earth, and we do not abandon our friends." Outside the meeting hall, construction had already begun on the first joint human-alien research facility. Former enemies would work together to build a future where the galaxy's civilizations could grow and explore in safety. The sleeping giant had awakened, fought, and won. Now, it would stand guard to make sure the galaxy never again fell into darkness. And in the deep space monitoring stations scattered across human territory, operators like Lisa Barnes continued to listen to the stars, knowing that they were no longer alone in the universe, and that they had proven themselves worthy of their place among the civilizations of the galaxy.